What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Northern Rider, and today I've got a story for you. Yes, it's story time with the Northern Rider. Alright, are you canny? Have you got your popcorn? Have you got your snacks? Are you ready? Are you sat down there? I'm on your big telly. I might be on your big telly now. So a little bit of backstory about me. I'm a ski and snowboard instructor during the winter period. So that basically means I take people who are normally sane and turn them into mentalists and stick planks of wood at their feet and push them down a mountain. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, I have got a few videos which I did start during the last winter period. I didn't really get much because of the coronavirus, which brings me to this very video. I posted a little poll up on Instagram to hear the story about how I got back home. So during the month of March, I would say at least 98% of my colleagues lost their jobs. So a lot of my colleagues went back home to Czech Republic, Slovakia, Italy, and there's a lot of people who kind of just disappeared for the season and then just stayed at home because there was no work to be had, and also governments were starting to introduce lockdowns in like kind of the southern parts of Europe, especially towards the Italian border, which is basically where I was. So basically what happened was during this period I booked a flight to get back home. Now the first flight that I booked with EasyJet, I'd purchased the flight, I'd purchased the ticket, and I was ready to go home. I was ready to go home and see my parents and chill out for the summer. So I'm fairly sure EasyJet had it in for me. So bearing in mind that we are at the beginning of March here, I'm trying to get home. I have no way of gaining any money from the local government because I hadn't been in the country for... So basically from the month of March to the sort of like beginning of May, I was trying to get home. I eventually got home in May, but in between that there was a lot of issues going on. Mainly from the UK government and also mainly from EasyJet as well. Now obviously because of the epidemic there was issues that was flying around. However, my main point was that EasyJet was still putting flights up on the website, still selling them and then cancelling them later on. Anyways, basically EasyJet went through this whole rigmarole of like cancelling every flight that I booked, and it was just an absolute shit show. Now, bearing in mind there are other places that I could have went, however prices were hiked up, and you're talking about from a £90 flight up to £2,000. Now, you'd be asking the questions, well, why didn't you just stay in Austria? Good question, I'm glad you asked that. So in Austria and also in Germany, what they have is a thing called Auslander. So that's basically a foreigner who is living and working in the country. Also in Germany and Austria, they have a thing called the Gemeinde, or the Gemeindeschaft. It's the local council, sort of police, sort of enforcement areas, and they basically control things like if you get your work permits and things like this. I had to have been in the country for 2 years to actually be able to claim any sort of benefits from the Austrian government. So I decided to contact the British government to see if they'd help your old boy out here. Well, the British government turned around and said, not sure. Basically, in a nutshell, the government turned around and said that I could claim benefits and that I was entitled to claiming benefits. I did state that I was in Austria and that I wouldn't be returning to the UK for some time because of the pandemic. British government turned around and said, yes, don't worry about it, son, you're fine, we'll look after you. You've got to ring this number, you need to have this form, and you need to have this form. Went to log in to the details that I've been given, and I also went to go download the form. Went into doing the form, filled in the form, filled in all the details, sent it off. They hadn't received it. Then apparently it had been lost somewhere along the lines, and then also I couldn't get into my account anymore. Now something went wrong with the account, so they told me to contact this number, and then they said ring this number, speak to this person and explain what's going on. Rang that number, couldn't get through. It got directed to, guess what? The people I'd just been speaking to before, who then told me that I needed to contact this number, which was the same number, to go back to that, to go back around again to the beginning again. I was going around in fucking circles. Anyways, to cut a long story extremely short, the government turned around eventually and said, you can't claim benefits because you're not living in the UK. Fucking know that, I've been saying that from the fucking beginning, you bellends. Now, the next part about this is that I actually booked a flight later on and it was looking suspiciously good. Let's put it that way. Now, I actually looked at a flight that was on Eurowings. Now, Eurowings are actually a subsidiary company of Lufthansa. Now, Lufthansa is one of the greatest and all-time favourite airlines of mine because they are banging. So I checked up on Eurowings, I purchased my flight, I actually got everything, I checked the small print and everything. I then proceeded to get on the train with 7-hour journey up to Vienna. I'd never been to Vienna before, so yeah, fair enough. Might see a bit of Vienna. I took myself from Hermagor up to Vienna, so it's about a 7-hour train journey. Lovely, very nice, very scenic. I'd never seen it in the day because I came here in the dark when I first got here. And I got to the airport and I was like, oh, it is dead. So then I proceeded to go to the desk at one point and I said to my parents, as I was on the phone to them, I'll call you back once I've checked in and I've got through security. Everything should be alright. I then spoke to the chap who said, you cannot fly because you cannot stay overnight in Germany. For that 24-hour period, I had to be getting a flight on that exact day. However, I purchased the flight from Eurowings, which put me in Germany for that amount of time. He didn't even work for Eurowings, he was just a fill-in staff to cover for the people that were actually on furlough. I had to contact Eurowings, then I had to contact Skyscanner, and I had to contact all sorts of different companies to try and see what was happening. I'd actually met a fellow Brit who had managed to help me as well, so we were both contacting them, and if we got in touch with one company, then we could pass the phone over to them so that they could speak to them. We're now stuck in an airport in Vienna, and there's no hotels open, there's nothing open. We can't actually do anything because of the coronavirus. Throughout this whole period since March, I was trying to get through to the British consulate in Austria, and I'm going to say that they have been next to useless. The only reason why I say next to useless was because one time they actually answered the phone. Anyways, they decided that it was a good idea during the pandemic to go on a holiday, and they'd all like completely got rid of everybody and they'd sent people home, and it was just a skeleton crew there and not able to help people, which is their job. So basically what happened after this point here is we managed to see if we can find somewhere to stay. We looked all over the place after the consulate said that everything was shut, and we actually found a hostel. So the guy that I met actually worked in Austria and he'd been in Vienna for quite some time, so he knew quite a little bit about the place and stuff like this, so I was like, cool, awesome. He then proceeded to turn around and ask me if I wanted a curry or a kebab. Yeah. So we ended up getting a curry and kebab, and we also ended up getting loads of beer sent to the place, and we had a bit of a smash up before we went to bed. Got up the next morning and then we went to the airport and ended up getting on the plane. Now, the plot thickens, but not for me, for the other guy. We'd spent ages trying to establish a route to get back home. Now for this guy, he had to go from Vienna to Zurich, and then he had to go from Zurich, he went into Heathrow from there. Now, I said to the guy, I said, I hope you get back home alright. You've been an absolute star. Thank you so much for helping me out, etc, etc. We both helped each other out a hell of a lot during this. He got on the flight from Vienna to Zurich, and then from Zurich, he flew over. Now, he sent me a text a little bit later on saying, there's been an issue with the plane. I was like, oh, okay, they probably landed somewhere relatively soon. What turned out to be was there was a guy who had actually been trying to hijack the plane. He'd punched one of the air stewardesses and knocked her out, where some of the passengers restrained the guy. They then had to fly back to Zurich, and then the police took over. You couldn't make this up if you tried. So I know this has been a slight different sort of aspect, and I thought a good way to get to know people is through their stories. People like stories, and people like some stories which have a bit of value or comedy to them or whatever like this. So that's gonna be it from me today. I hope you have enjoyed this, to be honest with you. I know it's not bike related or anything else related, and I know it's just a little bit about me and stuff, but yeah, it's kind of funny, but I always find that you can always learn a lot more about a person by the stories that they tell and stuff. So if you haven't already clicked on the like button and the subscribe button, then if you did, I'll be forever in your debt, and that'll be absolutely sick. You know, it does help the channel out, it helps it grow, and we are growing slowly but surely, and I think we're getting a nice community of people going. I also like to see comments down below, that really makes us happy. So on Tuesdays, I usually have how-to videos or beginner-friendly advice videos, etc. I usually have them on the Tuesday. They're a little bit shorter, a little bit bite-sized content, and on the Fridays, I usually have the longer videos, which are more kind of like mountain bike related, so like riding or learning tricks or whatever, like the longer videos, and there's a bit more content in them as well. So as always guys, I'm the Northern Rider, thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you in the next one.
Bitch, I got problems on problems on problems on problems on problems on problems I solve them. I run through the money, the pressure be calling. Left on my blessings, I feel like I'm falling. The birdie is back, tell me I'm garbage. I'm going through something, that's why I ain't calling. Phone and progression is all that I wanted. The phone and affection, I summon and dub it. Cause